half. Yet that success hasn't convinced politicians that handouts hurt people.
It's so essential to pass the unemployment insurance extension.
Unemployment benefits used to last 26 weeks, but Congress has extended them to nearly 2 years. That does encourage dependency.
It did encourage me to pass up job openings that I could have applied for.
How many?
Probably half a dozen.
Patrick Berry lost his job writing software manuals. He says his 99 weeks of unemployment benefits led him to turn jobs down because they paid less than unemployment.
That would amount to a pay cut, and why would I want to do that?
Fresno, California has 17% unemployment. Yet people who run employment agencies here tell us people turn down jobs all the time.
We call them for a position and they say, no thanks, I'm on unemployment. A lot of people take advantage to try to work the system. If the state's going to give me money, why not take it?
Unemployment agencies say many people just pretend to look for work.
Benefits personnel, this is Nancy. May I help you?
They pretend because that's required to get your check.
Yes, we do.
They're, completely not dressed for an interview, in shorts, a t-shirt, and flip-flops saying, oh yeah, I want to get a job really bad, please hire me. And they'll come through the interview process and we know that they're not going to go to work.
I would say maybe 25 to 35% of the people that we're talking to are just not trying.
That's not what we hear from our president.
I haven't met any American who would rather have an unemployment check than a meaningful job that lets you provide for your family.
But incentives matter. In Denmark, the socialist government once offered laid-off workers 5 years of unemployment benefits. When did many Danes finally find work? Surprise, after exactly 5 years. So Denmark cut benefits to 4 years. Then Danes found jobs in 4 years. This year, Denmark cut the benefits in half.
A survey found that 1/3 of the unemployed find work immediately when their unemployment benefits run out.
When there were only a few weeks left, I actually did start looking at jobs that I had been passing up the chance to apply for.
We should have a safety net to help people who cannot help themselves. But I don't think we ought to have a safety net that lulls people into lives of complacency and dependency on the federal government.
Again, it is kind to want to help people who've fallen in hard times. But government handouts encourage people to rely on handouts instead of on themselves. Coming up, the alternative. What makes you happy? Money? Well then, what could be better than winning a lottery?
Look at those big smiles.
Oh my gosh.
But here's the surprise for most. A few months later,
they're not happier at all. On the contrary, the lottery winners are less happy. When people don't earn their own success, they're not as happy, they're not as healthy, and ultimately
Arthur Brooks wrote a book about happiness.
What do you mean? They're not as happy?
No, they're not as happy.
It would make you happy to get a check.
It would seem, but actually it's not true. Earned success is really the elixir of joy in an entrepreneurial society.
People who accomplish things.
Exactly, people who earn their success.
People like Jessie Walter.
I teach kids to cook.
She runs Cupcake Kids, a business that does cooking events for kids. Here she's teaching them how to make zucchini muffins.
What do you think? Doesn't it smell really good?
Walter lost a job on Wall Street when the housing bubble burst. But she didn't mope and ask for a handout. She thought about what she could do next.
I was like, I could do this. I could teach kids to cook. Now we've built a kitchen.
While helping herself, she helped others. Not just the kids. She created jobs.
Yep. We have an events manager, a kitchen manager.
How does this look?
Awesome. I work more than I did, if that's believable.
And despite that, she says she's happier.
I love it, and it's, every day's different.
These are the happiest people, and those are the people who are most rewarded most of the time by the free enterprise system.
A recent Gallup poll found business owners have a higher sense of well-being, even though they work longer hours and make less money.
There's an enormous causal relationship between how much success that you think you've earned and how happy you are, and if that is followed by money, so much the better.
I live in Janesville, Wisconsin. I can think of about 10 entrepreneurs off the top of my head who started with nothing, who have made great businesses, and they look at this as the American dream.
One of those entrepreneurs is Ralph Tenuta.
Hi. Hi, how are you?
He started this deli with his father.
He bought this little candy store.
In 60 years, they grew it into a famous Wisconsin super deli.
I love everything about it. I'm taking my daughter here. She's from California, so she can experience Tenuta's.
Where you been?
The owners have given lots of kids their first job.
We must have hired through the years thousands of kids.
This is what makers do. They create opportunities for themselves and others.
Arrivederci. E salute.
That you can start off and go and make it for yourself.
That's what built the country.
Absolutely. It's what's made us so exceptional.
But will we be exceptional tomorrow? That's next. You union thugs are sucking the life out of America. This is how I get to work most mornings. I take the subway. Or sometimes I take the bus. Both the bus and the subways in my town are run by an organization called the MTA. It's a government monopoly that's losing money hand over fist.
Most of that money goes to pay bus drivers, subway conductors, train mechanics, and so forth, most of whom are union members, and most of them belong to Transit Workers Union Local 100, run by John Samuelson.
We represent 34,000 subway and bus workers.
And their contract's much too rich, says the MTA.
The MTA says we're $800 million in the hole. Cut us some slack.
There's nothing funny about it, says James McDougall. Public sector unions are parasites that will bankrupt America.
It is literally the parasite devouring the host.
The host, he says, is private enterprise, and the parasite is unions and governments.
It's crazy that the private sector is literally dying and the federal government is providing more and more and more pay and benefits to its own employees at the same time.
McDougall's a businessman who built this payroll service company from scratch. His business was all about employee pay, and so over the years he's been dismayed to watch government award their workers raises and special benefits like retirement at age 55.
I mean, it used to be the deal, you go work for the government because it's safe, you can't be fired, but you make less. Now they make, if you include the pension, double.
More than double, because they have fantastic benefits.
People say you union thugs are sucking the life out of America.
You know what I say to that? I say that the trade union movement is the greatest anti-poverty program that was ever developed.
Jobs are the best anti-poverty program. There's more job growth when you guys are not involved.
That's absolutely false. The trade union movement and civil service in this country has been the gateway into the middle class. That's what this is about.
Really? I don't know many in the middle class with benefits like these. Union transit workers reach top pay grade after just 3 years. They take lots of sick days with full pay, and they can get to retire with a good pension at age 55.
Why is that fair?
Well, let me tell you, why isn't that fair?
Because most people can't. Most people work till 65 or longer.
Let's address that. We work in disgusting conditions. We work around human fecal matter, dead rats. We breathe in steel dust all day long. We're out there keeping the system running when folks like you are sitting in a studio interviewing guys like me. Is that fair?
And to make it fair, you get to retire at 55.
Absolutely.
Transit workers, like cops and firemen, say they deserve higher pay because their jobs are dangerous. But America's most dangerous jobs are logging and, most dangerous of all, fishing. Much more dangerous than police or transit work.
Loggers don't retire at 55. People who fish for a living,
I don't know anything about loggers.
But I look at the most deadly jobs.
Mm-hmm.
Fishing is at the top of the list. Logging, farming, garbage men, roofers. Transit workers are way down.
This is the richest country in the world. To expect
we can't afford you anymore.
That's an absurd statement.
Bill Schoolman's bus company competes with the MTA.
Their pay is so much higher than what a private business can afford to pay. It is a corrupt practice to see the way that they burn taxpayer dollars.
Schoolman trains bus drivers, but often loses them to the MTA.
They got much better benefits. He starts with a 30-day vacation. Very hard to compete.
Not to mention all the sick days.
A fourth of your workers took more than 15 sick days. In the private sector, they wouldn't last long doing that.
I don't believe that's true.
It's not true that a quarter of the people take 15 sick days?
About 25% of our workforce are women. Women have babies.
But in the private sector, there are women getting pregnant.
Are you saying that women who are pregnant, how long is a, I mean, let's talk about this.
I'm just wondering why there are so many sick days.
I'm telling you why there's so many sick days. There's a significant amount of New York City transit workers are women now, whereas it never was like that.
There are a lot of women around here, too.
Mm-hmm. And when they get pregnant, how much time do they take off for work?
I don't know.
So?
I'll find out.
You're pointing your finger at me and at my union, and you really don't even have an answer for it.
So I got an answer. New mothers at both the MTA and Fox get maternity leave. And lots of women around here have gotten pregnant. But not a single Fox employee took 15 sick days. The average was 3 sick days. And women take no more than men. 83 transit workers claimed a passenger spat on me. 51 of them took an average 64 days off.
Have you ever been spit on?
Yeah, actually.
You have.
I don't like it, but I wouldn't get 64 days off.
We've had folks that have been spat upon that have gotten hepatitis. They've been spit in the eye and gotten eye infections and have taken significant amount of times off for that.
Unions always have reasons why taxpayers must pay. But why do government officials agree to the deal?
Unions do what unions do. If you're dumb enough to negotiate the stupid deals that the MTA management has negotiated, then shame on them.
Most of those elected officials don't know how to read a balance sheet. They're just not equipped to manage the process of managing 22 million people who work in the public sector.
Some who were equipped didn't seem to care. After all, the pension bill won't come due until later.
The person who did it 15 or 20 years ago is long gone. The council or the congressman or the senator. So we have, in effect, a crimeless victim. The victim is the taxpayer. But nobody really committed a crime.
We won! And the political machinery perpetuates the scam. Politicians give workers raises, and then the workers campaign for the POLs.
It's a money pump. It goes from the taxpayer to the public employee, to dues to the union, from the union to the candidate who will promise to do more for the public sector employee. It's crazy.
Even popular politicians cannot break the cycle. When Arnold Schwarzenegger tried, he was met with this.
Arnold, shame on you!
And cuts didn't happen.
The legislature has decided it is more important to protect state employees.
California now has a $19 billion deficit. Were the state a private company, it would be bankrupt and replaced by more efficient competition. But most government workers don't have competition.
In the private sector, there are no monopolies. So if somebody overpays, overpromises their workers, they go out of business.
Yes, they do.
But in government,
we don't have a choice of saying we're going to have someone else be our police department or someone else be our fire department.
Union benefits are so good that in Miami, thousands lined up to apply for fire department jobs. Some camped out for 2 days. A few towns have escaped the money pump by privatizing public services. These workers fixing streets and picking up trash in Sandy Springs, Georgia, gee,